Okay, so it's 5:55 on the 8th, and I am out of it, man. I am so out of it. I am so tired. Fuck, I am exhausted. I have a headache again, and I slept well. It's the kind of sleep is like when you have an infant and you get woke up constantly. And it's hard when you're going so deep into the dreamscape that it is like pulling you out of so abrupt, man. And you're deep in this dream, and even in my dreams, it's like I'm evaluating my dreams as I'm going. Like it's really weird. It's like this, I don't even know how to explain it. Dreams are just different now. And then Stella will be like right next to me and just ah, it's just like come what? And so anyways, that was going on fucking night. And then at some point then she was like, I think it was around 3 something. I don't even know. I think it was around 3 something. When I paused the ocean waves, it said that it had been 8 hours since I had started them. I was like, oh my God, I feel like I've been asleep like 2 hours. I'm so tired. I have such a headache. I just feel so out of it. And I'm grumpy as fuck. So let me think. Oh yeah, because I saw that there was some solar flat, whatever they're called, the X-class things coming out of the sun or whatever, that there was 2 last night, and there's a geomagnetic storm or something. And so I don't know if that has to do, because I know the dogs also feel all this intense energy. And so I don't know. I've seen more people now with this prophetic thing about the 19th. So I don't know. There's no money in my account. So that whole thing where people are saying, oh yeah, we're going to get a deposit on the 7th, that didn't happen. And, well, for me here, it didn't happen. Then, so I see more people said that this, flood thing is going to go down. This one I saw saying that, they were talking about starting on the East Coast. So I have no idea. But right now in the Pacific Northwest, they're going to have, starting yesterday, they're having a flood atmospheric river. And it's so weird how they've come up with these new, we got an atmospheric river. So they got flood and snow storms going for this week until the 12th. And then, I'm just glad I'm not over there. Oh God, I'm so glad. And they said up in the Cascades, it could be 4 feet of snow. There's going to be inches of water and inches of snow. So and when there's a bunch of water and snow together, and then it becomes such a icy mess too. So I don't know, but that's supposedly going on in the Pacific Northwest, this big thing. And then when the guy is talking about, this weather guy, he's like, it's totally normal. I was like, is anything normal at this point? Are we just coming up with new stuff and saying, well, that's normal? It's like, I don't know that we're living in anything that seems normal to me. Everything seems abby normal to me. Sounds like it's starting to rain out there. Yesterday it rained all day, and it was gray and dreary. Like I went outside because I thought, oh, I'm going to go out and get a different angle of the sun coming up with all the colors. So I'm going to walk down the river and I'm going to get the sun coming up. Well, it never did it. There was no, and this happens sometimes. That's why I'm always like, oh my God, look at the colors. Because it is, so many times there's nothing. It's just gray. And, with a white light, and then it comes, I don't know, I swear to God, it's just like we're in different skies, different atmospheres or something. And so I go walking down to the river, and then plus it was like dark until like 8 o'clock in the morning. It's like, this seems weird. It seems weird how dark. It's dark like at 5, I would say like a 5:30. I think by 6 or so, it's pretty dark. And then 8 o'clock in the morning, it's still dark. It's like, this seems extreme to me. But I think they're in control of the lighting that we, like the Truman Show or something, when he's like, turn on the sun. It's like, I think that there's some kind of, cabin in the woods controllers out here that are deciding when we get light and when we don't. So I go walking out there, and it was still pretty dark. And I was like, well, I'll just go out, because it was already starting to rain and stuff. I thought, I'll just walk out there and do the river in the morning, which it was really cool because it was so many birds, and there was a duck sound, and I kept thinking, I bet that's a hunter. I bet it's one of those duck calls. That's why I kept thinking, that's got to be a duck call. That doesn't sound like a duck to me. And so you can hear that in the video. And then in between each video, there was boom, boom, boom. I was like, oh my God. And then there's one video I did, though, that you can hear pop, 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 pop. And some of them you could hear, like, okay, that's not real close. But there was a couple where I was down by the water, and I think it was the duck call person, and so it sounded super close. Then it was boom, and it echoed. It hit into my ears. It was so fucking loud. I couldn't believe it. It like echoed across the yard somehow. It was wild. And then it did, and then another one, and that way it hit into my ears, and it totally was like, oh my God, I felt like I needed to duck and cover. It's like, shit, how do, I don't know. It really freaks me out. People like bopping off all around you. It's like, how do they know there's not going to be a stray going somewhere, It seems insane to me. Like, there are people living around here. It's like, what? And then there was a duck that went, and I saw it, going across the water, and then it started to take off, and I was thinking, I bet you that is what, wherever, when it got up, that he was like, boom. Yeah, it's probably what he was doing, rah, rah, with this duck call thing. But there was also some fish that jumped up, and you can hear them splash back down. So it was really cool, but it was dark and kind of eerie. And then with those guys out there, I was like, oh my God, am I safe? Do I need an orange vest on? I need an orange hat, which I watched this movie the other day. I talked about it. It was the one that had so much about the JFK thing. And that's what happened to his kid. He took his kid, the dad who got so freaked and got so obsessed with the conspiracy, that he had taken his kid out for his first hunting trip. And he had his kid dolled up in orange and stuff. And then the dad said, just a minute, he's walking over, peeing by a tree. And the kid's like taking off his orange stuff. And then he goes, oh, where's the Twinkies or something? And then takes off running to go to the car. And some drunk hunters are out there and, take him out. It's like, and then they blamed the parents because he didn't have the proper attire on. And so the kid who did it was, it was like, well, it's an accident. He should have had the gear on. And so that is also a part of the premise in the movie, because of the aspect of wanting revenge and the whole moral dilemma, and there was a lot. I thought it was a good movie. So anyways, it freaks me out when they're out there. One time, this comes to my mind too, because after I got my brain injury, and I was kind of it was in 2015 when I went through the dark night, and everything was hitting me. My whole life, when I say my whole life fell apart, it's because I was knocked out of my cycles, because I had began my cycles, like I've said, when I made the choice not to go and be honest with Dickie, and then somebody else rushes in and is like, oh, I love you. And then it's like, well, I guess they love me. So even though I don't like them, I like him. I guess I'll go with this one. And so that started my spiral of lessons that lasted decades. It started my whole when I got further out and I looked back, then it was like, oh my God, I could see my patterns. I could see my choices. I could see my part that I played in my own life. Where before, when I was in it, it felt like I was in a whirlwind of experiences happening. This is where people get into this, well, God is doing this. It's like, no, you make choices. You just aren't aware of them. And you make choices because of your damage, and you're not aware of it until you get past and you look back and you go, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I did that. Oh, God, I did that too. Oh, and then you start seeing yourself clearly. That's a part of the healing. That's the process. And so when the dark night occurred, the year that it hit me, that's when I say my life fell apart. And it was when number 4 pulled the rug out from under me because it was unexpected, you know? And then plus there was a whole thing of like, well, I wanted to leave so bad, but why wasn't I? Why wouldn't I go and do it? Why did I wait for him? And so there was that whole thing of that, of having to heal. So when I say my life fell apart at this point, that's what it had to do with, is because everything, it was like my whole life was pulled out from under me because I had set patterns of dysfunction and toxic behaviors. And then all of a sudden it was like, boom. And it was like, it totally was like I was on a ride. And then all of a sudden I was pushed off the ride and I'm sitting down watching the ride. It's like, and then I'm seeing myself. And then I was having this deep understanding, and that is the complexity of the ego, of the thing where they say the dark night, because you see this aspect of yourself that is moving through this world that you don't really have awareness of, because it's your broken parts, it's your dysfunction. And that is the lower chakra area of existence, when you are just reactive in life, you know, and people think, oh, well, you know, somebody out there is in charge of my life. And nothing changes until you realize the part you play and that you're in charge of your life. You give it over as a victim by thinking that somebody else is in charge, but that is the reconciliation with your ego, to acknowledge it and to get a handle on it and to pull yourself in to both aspects of self so that you can find your balance. And that's the part of the healing process. So in that period of time when that occurred, then that was like 2015. And then 2016 is when things started turning in a different direction for me. And I started going in a different direction. But in in 2015, I was super, super depressed. Like, it wasn't just him leaving, then my dog died. And so I was spiraling. I was suicidal. I was like falling apart. And so I don't remember what I was talking about, where I was going. Oh yeah. So anyways, it was so it was more like 2016. So 2015, I'm falling apart. I'm going to the doctor. I'm getting, you know, prescribed stuff. And I'm overburdened with that. Like, I've got 18. And when I finally, you know, pulled the plug, it was 18 of them. So I was going to and it was a nurse practitioner, and which I think, you know, she's gotten fucking rich off of these white pads of paper. And this is a thing too, is so many people go to these places wanting a white piece of paper to walk out with. They want a solution. They want to figure out what's wrong with me. What can I do about it? And that is the misleading part, because that is not only not doing anything about it, but it's adding to your problems. It's causing more issues in some other area of the design of cell, but it's causing you more problems than it is, and it's a band-aid at best. It's nothing to, that is when you go more towards nature and finding, oh, there's a bad plant, and right next to it's the antidote, the good plant. So it's the sisters of, oh yeah, like Cain and Abel or something, is like plays out and plays out and plays out in the micro macro. But so where you find your truth is more in the nature or the natural, not in the artificial or the created by the, especially by the beings that are trying to control us. And, oh yeah, that. Okay, but I just want to say this real quick because this is a long road to get there. So my nurse practitioner, she was telling me, well, you should see about volunteering. See if you can volunteer. And so I started volunteering at one of those places where kids go. You know, it's kind of supposed to be to stop parents from beating their kids kind of situation. So with a drop-off kind of place. And so it ends up being kind of like a daycare, and some people just use it over and over, but they do a lot of things to try and help the people. So anyways, I did that for a while, and I did have a trippy experience there at one of the times. Well, I think it happened 2 times, but I was holding a baby, and so you got to hold him and rock him and stuff. And then at that point too, sometimes I can have a problem staying awake. And so I'm sitting in this chair in the dark. They've got whatever going and holding this baby. And I start feeling like I'm dozing off and leaving my body. And and it was like I was going out into this fog. And it was reminding me of before when I left my body. And so at this point, I was already talking to those people that I was going to those meditation groups with. And I said, what do you think's going on? And she said, especially in a room full of babies, that they're all leaving their bodies. And so it starts pulling on your energy. And she said, I've before been holding a baby and they're going to sleep. And I also have felt that being pulled out. And so I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because, yeah, you've got all these little babies and toddlers, and they're all going to sleep, and they're all like, their energy's all like leaving the room. And so it is, so it was like pulling me out of my own body. And so anyways, that, but in that period of time where I started volunteering, then they had, I don't even know how, because you go volunteer at one place and then there's more, well, this place needs this place needs that. And somehow it was for this golf tournament. And so it was like they need volunteers to come to this golf tournament. They feed you, and so you get to eat, you got to go to the thing, and you got to go out to the hole and you go and get the balls that go flying. So you got to, no, you don't get them, you point to them. So when the guys come up and they're like, you're like, oh, went that way. And so I'm out there on one of the holes. I don't remember which hole, fucking 13 or something. So I'm standing out there, and they're fucking hitting these things, and they're flying past you. I'm like, what? This is fucking dangerous. How is this like, I'm feeling like I gotta hide behind a tree. It's like, how is this a thing? Like, you're going to stand out here where they're fucking flinging these, and you get hit with one of those things, I think it can kill you. They are like, what? God damn. And Serendipity, they show Molly Shannon get hit with one, and it just knocks her down or whatever. But I was like, I think that would crack your skull open. I think I've heard of that before too. Somebody getting hit with a golf ball flying and crack their skull, because that is intense. I'm like, hell to the no. So anyways, that also, when there's out there banging it out over here trying to get ducks and shit, then I'm like, man, it just brought me back to that same thing as like they're flying by you. It's like, it just is so creepy. So anyways, That whole story was blah 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 blah. But but that one story that I had said the other day about the girl who was sitting in the restaurant, and the guy with the loose skin suit, that he was sitting there talking to her, and then he started telling her that he was from somewhere else, and that he's here to observe humans, and that he got a quote from her, and then 10 years later, and she's teaching English in Korea, and this person walks up to her and says the quote. And so so everybody, I guess, in the comments, she didn't want to be tagged in the story or anything. She didn't want anybody to know who she is or something. And but so she was reading the comments though. And in the comments, she had seen lots of questions. So she emailed the girl and told her the answers to the questions. So to go further into the story. So she sees him in Korea. He walks up and says a quote. And then he says that he would like to talk to her again, but he would need to meet her tomorrow because he was busy. And so they made a plan to meet, and she was going to show him around Korea the next day. So they met up at 2, and they were walking around. And she said there was such a familiarity to him, even though he looked different. And so she wanted to talk to him and stuff because, she's fascinated by whatever is going on. And so she's out walking and talking with him, showing him around the city. And he's telling her, not every human would be able to comprehend this, and that most would be really scared. And so she said, you're different. That's why I can talk to you, because you're not scared. So I can tell you these things. And so she asked more questions and stuff, and he told her that she said, like, how do you get here? Where do you come from? And she said it was this complex thing, which to me it has to do because it's dimensional and it's moving through portals and stuff. It's not like, yeah, well, I come from this place out there and I fly 100,000 light years. It's not like that. It's like, yeah, I'm sure that's why it's something with geometry and stuff has to do with, I don't know. But I just know that everything is like this layers, and it's like looking at it is like, yeah, it's like these stars that I'm hanging. Okay, so looking at it, I kind of want to get one of these stars down. So I have these, okay, let's see if we can tip this up. Okay, see that star right there? That one's made of copper or brass or something. I got that one in Mexico a long, long time ago. But so I have some other ones like that are hanging, but they're not that same kind of, I don't know what they're made out of, actually. But, okay, so take something like that in your mind and then fill it in the inside. And when I look at these ones, because that one is cut, so that one's got cut holes. These other ones, I have a couple of, they are the same shape, except for they are wrapped like, and I'm gonna get one and just show, because it will make more sense, but you're gonna have to wait a second because I gotta get up and reach it. So hold on a second. Okay, so you see this, and you see how there's gaps. Okay, so when you think about the universe, and you think about the space, then, and even the space that we exist in, because it's all spaces. So how these are gapped, and then you think if this was wrapped, everything inside. So not just this shape, which I think some of these shapes are this is where the sacred geometry comes in, I think. But so, but if you took this way, it's wrapped like that, And then you did that all inside. So everything was like that. That is what the universe is more like. Okay. And then think of like different points of having life and experiencers. Then the spaces in between are the roots, are the entry point. And so say like this is the universe, and in the middle, in that point, would be the earth, which would be another shape like that. Like everything is like this same shape inside of a shape inside of a shape inside of a shape. So whatever shape that you would be using as your point of reference would be everything inside, like those things in Russia where it's like the little thing, the little person inside of the other person, inside the other person, inside the other person, inside the other person, which that's not just there, but I don't know the story behind it, but that's how I see it. So you think about the earth being inside in the middle of this, and this being wrapped everywhere around. Then in order to access it, you got to go through all of these portals of entry to get to the space that you're trying to get to. So where they say you're going through outer space, now you're actually going through these ports of entry to get to the place you're trying to go to. And since it's layered inside with all of these different spaces, because it's not like if you think like the earth being inside of there, you'd need to think of it being, you know, tiny. It's just one place inside of there. There's a whole bunch. And so you're moving through and around. That's why like the 3-eye atlas disappears at points, because it's moving through dimensional atmosphere. It's not moving through the sky as it's flying by. That's a misconception. And so it is, it's going through all these. So then if it's way in the middle, then see, it's got to go through all these different ones, because if it's layers and layers of that, and that is also, you know, in the micro macro of it, that is a kind of how this would also be like, if this were the earth, then it would be like India's here, and North America's here, and Russia's here, and Africa's here and stuff. It wouldn't be like we're all laid out flat. It's like these layers inside. Layers are like layers. So it's funny how some of these words, because layers, Lairs, it would also be layers, Layers. Is that how you spell layers? Yeah, because the others are lawyers. Okay, so layers. So it is realms. So it's in the realms are based on where their vibration is, how you access into the entry of it. And so it is so then like that's why there is layers or other realms around us that we don't enter, because we're not on their vibration. But that is what is occurring right now as we raise our vibration, that these things are riveting, they're vibrating into our atmosphere through us changing the vibration. So they start coming more into our focus, but they were always there. It was just that we couldn't see them because we were at a different vibration. But as we speed up our vibration through love and unity and caring and letting go of all of the darkness and letting go of what the things that slow us down, and then we move into where more layers become into our vision in order to access those. See, then that is why it has to do with being more accepting. Just like this guy telling this girl, he's like, you're more accepting so I can talk to you. It's the same thing. It's like we are becoming more open. We are becoming more accepting. And that's why it is moving us into this other vibration. And that's also why there's such a discomfort, because in order to be moving into this other vibration, you have to let go of so many things. And that's what we're all in the process of. And that's why there's these catalysts that are happening in our world that are assisting, where the Donald's doing this or whatever. No, he's some type of a catalyst in this situation. So and there's a lot of events that are like catalyst events to get us to think things through and to get us to look at things and see things that we hadn't seen, so that we can purge out these parts of ourselves. But see, we still have a lot of people who are stuck in the victim mentality, and there's somebody out there over them or something, and so they don't have to take responsibility for themselves. So that confusion, or those two opposing forces, because you have some people who are like go beyond that, and then other people that hold on to that. But that's where we have this dichotomy of experience and vibration of these dual realities. And so but that is this expansion, because and that's one thing too, that these people who are talking about this big thing happening are saying that this hand of God, or that is what is shown, is the force to get you to really see with clarity. So some kind of clarity is coming, is the point of getting the vibration to expand, to open us fully into what is around us. And that's why I talk about the true travel, when we start having the access points. So when our map starts showing us, not their interstates and stuff that they put in to control our movements and keep us on their path, but the access points that we can begin to access. So like, these guys walking from India and they're over in Mexico, so we can start seeing like, we go through this part and we come out over here. So those are these portals of entry. And in these portals of entry, and some of them is different vibrations. So there is other beings, the inner earth beings and stuff like that. And in that show I was talking about, Rabbit Fall, and she's talking to like going in this other realm is opening up in these certain vibratory places, because there's also a guy there who is like monitoring like these waves and stuff, where he's like, there's something weird with this energy. So in those portal points where the energy is not as consistent, then that is where you have these access points of being in two places at one time. And when she was talking to one of these girls, the one that seems to be like her guide, or possibly her in a different life or something, she said that they are more inner earth or something. But inner earth isn't like in the earth or underground. It's a different like vibration. It's like a different, it's like a it's like yeah, I don't know, because like there's like our world is about to change, and parts that are where people live and stuff are going to go under water, under mud, and go underground. They're going to become inner earth. But there's still beings or energies that are associated with that. And so just because it's not just in the sense of death, then you are gone, because your energy can stay attached to where the place, whatever you have going on. And so, and in this scenario, in this show, that there is a tragedy of the tribe battle that where they killed this other tribe and slaughtered them, massacred them. And so that holds a lot of spiritual tension. And so, and it seems that a tragic ending that is sudden also causes the spirit to kind of stay attached for longer. And in this show, this one is trying to do some kind of a heal. I don't know, because now, that season's over. I'm going to check and see, because maybe there is more, but I think the first season was like 6 episodes. I think this one was 8 episodes. And I'll check and see if there's more. But it seemed like the way it ended was like, oh, this is the cliffhanger. This is how it's going to end. And now you got to wait a fucking year to find out, which I kind of think I know what they're going to come back as. But anyways, but there's some reason this girl is coming and making contact, and it is kind of a cleansing or trying to create an awareness or something. I'm not sure. It's more complex, because that's the truth behind the world that we live in. There's a spiritual complexity that people don't understand, just like what I say about like this place where I'm at, these goat head thorns and this, just they're still out here, killing, and that there is certain energies that are there, which I feel sure that there was some type of a slaughter at some point, and that there is uneasy spirits, certain energy that is attached to the area. And I think that is why the thorny kind of, because it's not just those goat head thorns. There's a whole bunch of thorns. There's thorns. It's like kind of like in that story, Sleeping Beauty, when the whole village went to sleep, and then all these thorns grew around it. It's kind of like that, like this energy that is there still. And so to me, it's like once that cleansing happens, that, these certain plants will go, but it's like that energy is coming through what's growing. And so, but there is a certain spiritual complexity to our existence that people are not familiar with, but they're being misled. And that is that to me is kind of like, I think, where the 3-letter agencies try and understand, like they do all these experiments and stuff like that. Some of the experiments I think are led by these mad scientists and whatnot. And the mad scientists would be, some have a connection to these certain old families or old tribes. And so some of them, some of the experiments are created, but then there's also like these organizations that are trying to understand how we work, probably so that they can pass it on to the mad scientists who can come up with ways to create the confusion and mind control that we have going on. But that is that, because they're always studying it, and there's all these people like, in the disclosure files, it says this and that and all that stuff. But it's more complex than what those people even know, like these 3-letter agencies and stuff. But I do know that that there is this sense of mind control, because if they can control your mind, then they've got access to your energy. And the system, the true system, is fed off of energy. And so if they can keep your energy, if they can control your energy, they can direct it. It's like a direct weapon, which they even use us as direct weapons towards one another by keeping people feeling like they have to adhere to certain uh, certain social uh, social parameters. And the which yesterday, last night, when I was going to bed, I started watching this movie, and it was this silly kind of movie called I think it's called The Outcast, and it was a high school movie of these kids. And so at this school, there's the these nerdy kind of girls. One's like a band girl, and one is a science girl. And she really wants to go to MIT. She's super smart. And the other girl, she wants to go to the performing arts school. And so, and then the social structure of in school, kind of, even it happens at work. It always happens, the same kind of thing. But this structured kind of social regime or something. So in this, the popular kids, the beautiful girl who's got the great body, and the jocks, and so they become the rulers. Oh, she's dreaming. They become the rulers over the school. And so the in this case, which is typical, the one with the power becomes hateful. And so this girl who rules the school, she does it through being hateful, making fun of people and stuff like that. Well, she does something really mean to one of those girls. So they start trying to figure out, like, what could they do to change things. So they flip the social structure in the school, and they create it to where all of the rest of the kids, so all of the kids that are thought to be the rejects, the weirdos, all the different groups, that they flip it into they're the ones in charge, and the minority becomes the jocks and the ones that were popular. And so they like, there's a party, like these girls having a party at the same time these other ones start, and the other one goes into this wild, crazy party where it's just fun. They're doing all sorts of stuff. They're doing cosplay. They're doing all sorts of things at this party. And the other one, nobody even shows up. And which when I was looking at it, I was thinking that, like, this is where, if we were getting comfortable with our own uniqueness and our own weirdo parts of ourselves, that this is more of the ideal structure of us being all just a bunch of weirdos doing weird things. They were doing all sorts of weird stuff, at this party. But it seemed like really fun, like sumo wrestling in those big plastic suits and stuff. It had all sorts of just weird stuff. There was one of the guys that brought his group over was I don't know what it was the fantasy group. So when I was a kid, it would have been the Dungeons and Dragons group. These ones are, into elves and all that stuff, and he's the king of the realm and all that. And so they had stuff with them, and they had the sci-fi people, all the different groups of these different outsiders. And so they were all playing all these weird, funny games and stuff, and all having fun. It was like, it wasn't outrageous. It wasn't just drunk people doing stupid shit and destroying places. I just watched 16 Candles the other day, and that very different party. Like, all this rich just tearing this guy's place up. And, the rich guy who's having the party, all the people that go into this place, which is also in Weird Science, too. I just go in and tear this shit up. Which, in 16 Candles, there was a point, in a lot of these older movies, there's such a different, like, oh, yeah, go ahead, take the drunk girl home. She won't care what you do to her. It's like, can you imagine them saying that in movies now? It's like, oh my Lord. But don't forget who was, the Zionists that have been ruling this world and coming up with what it was we should watch and programming us. But see, people waking up and starting to say, well, that's not right. Then that has to do with where we start pulling out of the programs and how they've been indoctrinating us to do this stuff. And some people have done it. But that's the thing in this movie, The Outcast, where I started seeing the people who were more unique and authentic, that showed their weird self and wasn't all uptight, were where we want to be. We want to be able to just be free and be who we are. And that I started seeing that the other people, the jocks and the beauty queen and stuff, that they were the conformist. They were the ones who were giving up who they were to be this other way that was the conforming. And then through their bullying was trying to get everybody else to conform. And another thing, too, was it showed in this also with the social structure of once it flipped, then the ones in charge started becoming evil, too. And that's another thing that is shown a lot in studies. Because we don't need to be over one another. We don't need to have power over one another. We shouldn't be vengeful and revengeful and wanting to get even and be bitter and hateful and, well, they did this, so I'm going to do that. We got to be more caring and compassionate, and, and then seeing, like the people who are the conformists, that they live in fear of not being accepted. And in some, just in blatant ignorance. I mean, when they show some of these football guys, and they're just big doofuses. And then they're bullies and, and stick people in lockers or whatever. So anyways, but there's also, we went back through, an authentic situation where, you have a bully like that at school who's a big guy and he's mean to the littler guys and stuff like that. Then you track it back. I'm sure you would find that he has grown up being bullied by someone bigger than him. Because even these, bigger guys, that they probably have an even bigger one at home. So, and then they don't, some people don't have compassion for what they go through. They just want to, I don't know, it's like watch someone else struggle because it gives them like a confirmation bias or something where it's like, oh, so, like it confirms to them that they're not wrong. I don't know. You don't really know everyone's intention over what it is, why they do the things they do. But, it's a personal journey, and they're the ones who need to question, why do I do the things I do? Is this healthy? Is this, what is the energy I'm putting out? And is this, where I'm comfortable? Do I want to be hateful and bitter and stuff? But that's the point where you start to question yourself. Because the questioning yourself is taking responsibility of yourself. It's the point where you stop having, somebody's over you. It's like, it's their fault you feel this way. It's God's fault your life's this way. It's always somebody outside of you not taking responsibility for your choices and your attitude. But that's the point where you start doing your healing, is when you do start taking responsibility for your own existence. And and then at that point too, for me, my own personal journey was So in 2015 was when my life flipped upside down and I had to start looking at it and taking responsibility for myself. And then going off of all the meds, that was a big changing through my health. And I got I was super sick there for a while. Because that was also going on in 2015, because that was also a part of, like, I don't know, my body purging out everything I had put through it or put it through or something. I was super sick, which makes me think that's probably when I had the Hep C and I didn't even know it, which I still say, if I would have known, this is one reason why I don't go and just take them to the VET, because then you go and they're like, okay, we're going to go through this test and this test. Oh, we found this. So we want you to get surgery. We want to cut this out of them. We want to put them on this. We want to do this. And the things that they want to do are not good for you. And so, I was like, no, I'm not going to, do that. I'm going to, keep trying to figure it out, because, I may get those yeast spills tomorrow. Tomorrow's payday, so I'm going to try that again and see if that doesn't, to me, it's like just trying to figure things out for myself. And, but there can be something in there growing, but like I know from my own understanding spiritually that when it's your time, it's your time. That, there's no, fixing that. That is just the way it is. You have a day that you come in, and you have a day that you leave. And which also, that's what, so when this girl, there was more questions. And so she, this person has shown back up. They've ran into each other several times in different countries. So this girl's traveling all around Europe, I guess. I don't know if that's where she lives or whatever, because she met him in Algeria, and a couple times it was the same person, but the most recent time it was a different person. She's a woman now, and sometimes they talk. The last time the person, it was somebody with power too, somebody who was like, and they were a speaker at something, and she said that so she couldn't go up and talk to him, but she came over and said the quote to her, so she knew it was the person. And so they keep crossing paths, and so she said that she's always kind of shocked that he's still here. But when she had asked him, so how do you get a suit, how do you get the body, and he said, well, that's too complex to really explain. And she said, then how long do you stay? He said, like 100 years. I can stay as long as I want, though. And then she said, well, then what happens? And he said, then I cease to exist. And he just doesn't. And so I don't know if that is like an energetic kind of creation. Because to me, it's like after, we leave here, especially when you, because I've said this before, and, but it was a long while ago, but I was talking about like the oversoul and stuff. And if it isn't some people, when you go back, because your oversoul or your higher self can be a lot of different people, it can be like different people you're interacting with can be coming from your same oversoul. And so if it isn't the spark of life let's say your oversoul is sending out all of these, lines, like it's got all these lines, it's fishing, and it's thrown all these lines into the dark. And then you are one of the experiencers. So you're just one of the lines that went in. And each line has an opportunity to evolve. And it's not like, one life is like your cycle, and it's like, oh, well, you didn't evolve, too late. Because you get to, you have experience after experience after experience, and opportunity after opportunity to evolve and to learn. But if that doesn't, some type of one of the things that is occurring at this point of this evolution as we think of man being evolving, but it isn't, if it isn't just a complete evolution of existence, and that you as the being isn't becoming, it's going into becoming your own independent sovereign being, and not blaming, everything that happens to you on the higher self, the God aspect, that you take responsibility for yourself and you become a sovereign being. So if you aren't my goodness, lady, that you aren't, what is that called when you take a part of the plant and you put it in, I've got a bunch of them right now, propagating. So if you aren't like a propagated, Jesus, oh my God, I swear to God. So if you aren't like a propagated being that is now evolving to see if it can become independent and sovereign, to become its own. And so you don't just journey back to the higher self, you become your own higher self. You become another evolved aspect, which I think is the mastery, which is where, a lot of people who are into spiritual community and stuff like that, like monks and stuff like that, then they are have this idea of becoming a master. And if it's not the master, is where it journeys back to the higher self, but then it realizes that it's them all along. And so it pulls free from that higher self into becoming its own entity, or its own self-conscious, its own state of consciousness, of its own aspect, where it becomes you become you. And if it isn't a part of the cycle, is when you are coming through all the different lives and different lifetimes that you haven't, man, it's hard to, because I can see it, but it's hard to explain it. But so it's like, okay, so if you're on the hook, your energy is on the hook, it goes down, your higher self throws in a line and goes down into this deeper part of a vibration, and you're on the hook, and then you're getting reeled up slowly through learning. The only way you move is through you learning. And then it's not just your higher self, but your higher self is in communication with you, which a lot of people will start feeling like, well, that's God. And so then you are moving up through your vibration, and you're going through these different phases of you, but that you always go back home to your higher self. Then when you go back out, that you are a different being. And at some point, if it isn't where you claim all your experiences as your own self, that you don't become that separation of a propagation of energy of self, and that is the mastery of becoming the independent source of self, as not, needing this, like, you become your own home. You don't need to go home and crawl into the arms of your higher self, because you become your higher self. And so it is like this, but that is an expansion. It's not like, where the higher self or the oversoul would be like, oh man, God, they figured it out, damn it. No, it would be like, that is why it's throwing in more lines, so that it can produce more independent. It is the structure of the expansion of the universe, of this constant expanding, evolving. And if that isn't what this period of time isn't to kind of initiate this structured evolution of souls, not just of mankind, but on the micro macro, this is the experiencers are of mankind, and this is the energy that is being propelled out, is the energy of like the evolution, the revolution, the time of change, and that it is so it's a big expansion, but on more than one level. And so it is a lot of mankind becoming, through the evolution process, through the schooling, learning experience, going to become its own expression of self, which is the mastery of the soul, which where you start becoming a master or an oversoul yourself. So then you, but I don't know that automatically that you would just be like, well, now I'm just going to sit up here and send out my own feelers. But it would be, but that's what it kind of seems like that's what you're working towards. That's where you think of the masters, or what are they called to? Don't know. I guess that's what we could kind of reference the watchers as being, but it's these older souls that are sending out all of these experiencers from their own evolution, and it is creating more souls. But they are like, because people call them some, like, is it the masters? But it is a mastery to become pulled into yourself, to evolve into knowing that it's you, that you hold importance, and you revere yourself, and you take, but it has so much to do with taking responsibility for yourself and seeing your role in your own world. But anyways, my experience through this journey, which, whatever journey I'm on, I came here for it. So it's a natural occurrence. Everything that has happened to me has led to it. It's all been, pre-prepared. But but it's also kind of like a game in the sense of, can you play? God damn, Stella. Can you play the game that you think you can play? Are you as good as you think you are? It's like, the chess tournament, and you have all these chess players. And so we are all these players. And it is like, can you play the game that you think you came here to play? Can you get in tune with what your life is trying to show you? And so, but in my experience of this whole shenanigan is, so, going through the entry point of experience and making bad choices for myself, and then taking responsibility for them decades later, and stop being the victim and start being the perpetrator. Is like, you are the perpetrator in your own life. You are you are the cause and effect. That so when you begin to do that, then things begin to change, and as they change, and as you look at yourself more real and raw, it's a harder look, taking responsibility for yourself and your choices is more difficult. But that's where you get the opportunity to heal. Why did I make this choice? Why would I do that? And so, and then, mine started when I, was knocked out of my cycles. And when I stopped, I didn't just jump right back into a cycle. It was a hard hit. It was a very hard hit, because I had been so deep in them, and I had questioned so many times. I had questioned. And so at that point, when I was knocked out, and I had already had the brain injury, So that was another way of the universe like taking me out. That's why I said, whatever you're here for, it's all set, and it will happen naturally. And when I got the brain injury, and then went deeper into my bad choices, then I because that's when I got together with the number 4, and then and it was the same thing, of the pursuer, and it's like, well, they must really like me. That's an illusion. The pursuer does not mean that they really care about you. That's what I've learned. And but then, so once I was knocked out of that cycle, and I was willing to sit back and look, and then I had to start healing more. I had to heal my body, and that's where I said, I was so sick, where it probably was where I had the hep, and then once I started going through that, then I started having all these crazy experiences. And that's when also these other people started coming into my orbit, of people who were more about spiritual living. And that's where I just started learning more about yoga and chakras and all these different things that started coming into my reality. And so it was a journey that was opened up to me. And then at some point too, this other being, this other person entered into my astral world and started coming into my dreams, they haven't entered into my physical. And that's the part where you can start feeling like crazy. Like, am I crazy? Like, this feels so real. But then it's like, well, where are they? So anyways, but that's a whole thing too, which I think is a part of this, the truth coming out, where we all get to see our truth. We all are going to see truth in a big way that's going to help us to understand more of our journey. So that's where, it's like this kind of wait and see, what is the truth. And we're all kind of teetering on that right now, over waiting to see, what is the truth. But it's going to be hitting in so many different ways to so many different people, because there is such a huge amount of people who don't believe in anything, that don't even understand, this spiritual side of this world, because that's the part where you got to be more focused on. And that's why, they try and keep people in distraction and stuff, because that's part of the games they play. It's a part of them trying to control your mind and have control and access to your energy, because then they can get you to think you're a good person when you go and work hard. And then they can keep raising the bar and pulling the carrot further away, and you keep struggling, trying to think you're not doing enough. And so you're putting out all of this energy, and they're directing it, and it is like an energy weapon. So, but then when you see the game, someone's trying to puppet you, and you wake up to that, that's when you start being like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not playing along with this. I'm not going to be a part of this whole thing, which I just saw another video of an encampment in, Olympia. And it was, oh my God, it was such a freaking mess. So much garbage. Oh my God, and huge. Like, they're going in and making homeless towns just of garbage and tore up shit. And it's like, I just don't understand why their drive isn't to see. And I think it's a part of, seeing this part of yourself, because to me, it's like, why are you not gathering with more people? And why are you trying to fight for resources and hang on like this? Why are you not coming together as creators and being like, why don't we find our way out of here? Why don't we go out to a certain place and let's start building some structures that we can live in? Let's start gardening some food so that we can grow our own food. Let's dig ourselves a well. Let's start creating a place where we can exist instead of living like rats in garbage. And so, I don't know, I bet, there's just, there's just a lot for everybody to see at their own level. But I do think there seems to be this mastery part of trying to become the evolution of self is becoming like a master, a grand master, or, you know, becoming an oversoul in a sense. And, but anyways, but this is, I keep trying to pull this tag off as I'm sitting here messing with this tag. This, but this is more of what the universe is like. This wrapped energy, and then these spaces in between, and the ways to go in and access. But it is like inside. It's inside. It's like layers and layers and realms and stuff. It's not just like this big landscape that's set out in linear time. We look at things through this linear vision, and but it's kind of like it's been taught to us, it's been indoctrinated into our perception. But really what you want to perceive is more of a honeycomb or a Swiss cheese, and it's the universe is this kind of I saw this lady who had cooked some kind of pork steak or something the other day. And so she starts slicing it, and it's got tons and tons of these little holes all over in it. And she's like, what in the world is this? Does anybody know what this is? So she did a video, and then there was people in there like, and then there was even these food people who were like explaining it to her. But so it's bacteria, of course, parasite. And then when when they start dying, they release gases, and that creates these holes. So that is more how that piece of meat looked, with all of these holes, these gases that released and made all these holes. That is more like what the universe is like. And then if you were in this giant pork steak and had all these holes, and you're trying to get access points to go from here to there, you got to go through all of these holes. And you can't go through the harder parts, the deeper parts. You don't meet that vibration. You have to go through the parts that are more open to you. So that's how everything has to do with the vibration. And also, yeah, it's how the things move. It's not just like we're flying through space or something. They're trying to get us to think of our planet being this globe and it's moving, but really what's moving is the energy of space-time, and it has a certain precision of movement, and it has but that's the vibration. And then you think of like the access points of the higher vibration and the lower vibration. And so that is more of that's more of like what our real existence is, our real world. That is more like that, is like this movement of the energy of space-time, and the access points depending on where you are in the vibration. And it can be like, this could be low vibration, this be high vibration, this be low, this be, you know. So it's not just like here or there, it's all over the place. And that's why you need these portals to go through and access. And so we are just like we are coming to find, as we are changing out of our vibration, watch and see. We are surrounded by high vibration. And so we are moving, that's the merging of these different atmospheres coming into our world, which yesterday, so I wanted to say this too, I'll say this before I go. It is yesterday when it was raining and shitty out all day too. And then, so I'm sitting here in this chair, and I think I was looking on my phone. I got to get off this TikTok shit. It's just like ad after ad. It's just a waste of fucking time. But I keep on being like, what's going on in the world? What's going on in the world? And you go in and try and see, which right now California is being hit with the fog. And they're like, what is this? And people are getting sick and stuff. I've been talking about the motherfucking fog for like 5 years. And I was saying for so long, the fog is carrying. And you just think of the density of it. It is a good carrier agent. It's a good vehicle because it can carry a lot of stuff. So anyways, but I'm sitting here in the windows right here, and that's where sun sets right there. And all of a sudden I look up and there's just, oh my God, the colors. It was like a fucking acid trip. And it's so crazy how even when you try and do these videos, it does not show the enormity of the colors. And so I grabbed my shoes to go out there and try and get a video. I did a couple of them to show, but it does not show, and how quick it moves too. But to me, it's like you see this other world there for a second, this other world that we're like merging with. And I swear to God, seeing more sky, it's like you see these worlds coming together. And I think that's a part of like watch the sky. I think that's also a part of it. Why the sun and the sun and the moon are way out. The moon, there was no moon yesterday. I showed the sky, no moon, and today there was a moon again. And it was big and bright. And I knew because when Stella went out in the middle of the night, it was like there was lights on outside. I was like, what the hell? So I look out there and there's the moon. It was over here on the other side though, and it was big. And so anyways, I'm sure this morning it'll probably be over here again. I'll have to see it because it's not traveling, right? It's not going, it's like, and sometimes it's moving super fast. It's doing all sorts of wanky stuff. So, janky. So, but that is a part of us seeing like, okay, this is, there's something off on this shit. This isn't a structured world like what we thought it was. It is very under some control of something, and we are merging, but yeah, we're merged in this low vibration we've been in. We are surrounded by high vibration, and we're merging into this higher vibration. But the ones that don't vibe with it, they're going to be propelled, which to me is the rapture, because they're going to be propelled into an existence. She's moving so slow. Oh, look at that tail wagging, you little cutie. I love you, lady. Just a minute. She just does not let up with this food thing. They already ate. They eat right before I start this. And then she's like, oh, well, I know there's yesterday I made applesauce bread. And she knows it's in there. And she doesn't want to stop until it's gone. And then she thinks magically more comes. And it's like, girl. And tomorrow morning, I need to go and take them to the dog park and hopefully wear them out because fucking Ruthie is ruthless. And then I'm going to run in and try and get a few supplies at the store. I got to get water. I got to get kombucha. Fucking can't manage myself without kombucha. And then, and get a couple of food things. But I'm really back onto this. Like, I just need to fast. I need to just quit with this fucking eating thing. I mean, moving into these other realms and this other sense of existence too, to me is like, I don't know. I know we just don't need to eat. like this vessel, I don't know. I think in the new density or something. I don't know. We'll see. But that keeps being like hanging on me as like, this reducing in how I eat and what I eat and stuff. And sticking more with the drinking kombucha and drinking teas and stuff. But my teas aren't just tea. They're all sorts of nutritional powders and shit. So, or plant roots, a lot of plant roots and stuff. So, anyways, I'm going to go give her some applesauce cakes. I'll probably have a bite, and once I have a bite, then I'll be like, oh, I want to eat some more. And then I just end up eating junk. And it's like, I gotta, especially when you just keep getting hit with sickness and just feeling all sludgy in winter and this headache and just feeling, I just feel uncomfortable. And so anyways, we're going to get started on this day and we'll see what this day brings us. Now it's Monday. I just can't believe it just flies. We're just flying through time and space as fast as possible and everything's merging. But we'll see what this Monday brings us. There's still so much there's still so much nonsense. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I know, there's been a whole friggin' big old thing of, Charlie going brought a lot of attention onto that whole situation where there's a lot of corruption. Wherever there's money and influence, there's corruption. And I think, you know, he didn't want to be used as how he was being used. And that's probably why he was taken out of the picture. And, but I think, you know, he's still there. Uh, I think he's still around. I don't think he's gone. But I think that certain things, certain people bring attention to certain crimes, and you know there's a lot of this just nonsense, and it does have to do a lot with religion and stuff. It was a way to really control people, and so there is a lot of money influence and stuff like that. So anyways, but there's that whole thing going on. There's more with it, you know, Donald this, Donald that. Even these people who gave this 600 billion or something for kids, you know, now people are like, she's a robot, she's not human. Like, there's just so much weird stuff. There's so many conversations going. So anyways, we'll see what this day brings us, and we'll see what this this could be the month where everything's going to change. I mean, Jesus Christ, we've been saying this for years, but any time it could be the time. It could be today for all we know. So anyways, but until you get to that point, if you want to be a master, you want to be the master of self, then you do need to work on yourself, and you do need to understand yourself. And in the process, you need to learn how to love yourself. You need to learn how to love everybody else, and you need to learn how to have the day you want to have, and where you direct your energy. Don't be used as a weapon. So anyways, we'll see how this day goes, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.